Are we live, Kent? Okay,
This means you're on live.
okay, are you in your, no, you are not, okay. We're gonna give it just a few more seconds. Oh, yeah, we are. You can actually exit out of that. It won't disrupt the stream. Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us at our November commission meeting. As usual, we start with our info session before we go to the official meeting. Tonight, we have Councilmember Nadeau with us. So if you want to go ahead and take it away, Councilmember.
Thanks, everybody. It's good to see you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, everybody. All of our commissioners here. It's good to be back. Just a quick update from the council. So it's the end of a council period. And what that means is that after almost 2 years, anything that does not pass through the council will have to start over again in January. So you can imagine that means that a lot of us are frantically moving bills through our committees. And in order to get out of committee and to have 2 votes in the council, which is required before the end of the year, most of us are marking up our bills this month because we'll have 2 opportunities to vote in December. So in my committee on the Public Works and Operations, the big ticket item that everybody asks about is the fake tags bill, fraudulent license plate bill. Yes. So in short, it holds drivers and vehicle owners accountable, gives greater authority to the Department of Public Works to tow cars with fake tags and to go after the sellers of the tags. You might wonder why we have to pass a law to do this. And the answer is because sometimes our laws don't keep up with the modern world. In this case, we introduced a bill that ended up being a lot more complicated in the end. We had to rewrite the entire code, strike whole sections of it. In the end, it's like 26 pages long, which is long. And I should be advancing it through my committee on the 14th. So we're very excited to finally do that. One thing that I think people are going to be really excited about is that it allows DPW to tow those vehicles right off the street. Current law doesn't allow them to tow until they've ticketed a vehicle twice. Very difficult to ticket a vehicle that doesn't have a legitimate tag because that ticket does not go anywhere. So this will be a better system. I met with the DPW director today. He gave me the progress on the scofflaw program, which is the new focus that I have really pushed on to prioritize booting and towing dangerous vehicles. They've been so either scrapping them or auctioning them off so that they can free up the room for additional scofflaws, getting rental properties where we know some residents struggle with transitioning out of homelessness into their own homes and can use those extra supports. And that is a very popular bill that we hope we can move in the next council period. I am also working on a bill that would restore the container deposit here in the District of Columbia, the beverage container deposit, that is, meaning when you buy a beverage, you pay an extra 10 cents. And when you bring it back, you get that 10 cents back. And if you find a can or a bottle and you want the 10 cents, you can get that too. It's a really effective way of recycling, creating those incentives. It's an effective way of getting litter off the streets, and it's an effective way of getting bottles and cans out of our river, which is a high priority. So I'm excited about that, and we'll be happy to talk to you all about that as the bill comes together. Even though it's only November, it's a good time for everyone to be thinking about what you want to see in the budget next year, because the mayor is already working on it. So start those conversations in the community. We'll be kicking off our performance oversight season at the end of January, beginning of February. So we welcome feedback on agency performance, which also informs the work that we do in the budget. We've been pretty busy, as I mentioned. Last month, my committee authorized an investigation into the rideshare company, Empower, which has been operating illegally in the District of Columbia for 4 years. The reason that matters is that consumers don't necessarily realize when they use the app that the driver may not be insured, or the vehicle may not be safe, or the driver may not be licensed. Drivers also are not protected by anything in this program. And so there's been a lot of dialogue about this, but at the end of the day, we have laws that allow rideshare companies to operate legally in the District of Columbia. And this particular operator just refuses to register. There's a cease and desist order, court order. I'm doing an investigation. The Attorney General is doing an investigation, and we are all hoping that these things will lead to the company coming into compliance. They currently owe the District of Columbia more than $100 million in fines. And even more importantly, we hear from constituents about health and safety issues, allegations of stalking, harassment, impaired driving, and there's no recourse for that. And if you complain to the company, they simply indicate that those drivers don't work for them. They are contractors, and there's no recourse that way either. This is very much, for me, a consumer protection issue. And so I'm delighted to be leading the council's investigation here. I always like to have some sort of public safety update when I visit. Tonight, I want to focus in on our 911 call center. You may have heard me talk about my concerns about constituents being put on hold or calls being dropped. Slow response times. This is a huge priority for me, for other colleagues. I've introduced legislation that would create a fire and emergency services communication center under the fire department, which is something that was piloted back in 2019 very successfully, resulted in diverting a lot of calls to the nurses, the nurse triage line, which is on demand medical advice, which can and help someone who may need help but doesn't necessarily need an ambulance, and prevent that ambulance ride unnecessarily. So this would allow dispatchers to focus on police calls and make more effective and faster dispatch in response to those calls too. And the chair of the committee decided not to have a hearing on the bill this council period, so we're regrouping and deciding what to do. In the meantime, we are doing a series of roundtables on the failures at 911. One of them will be jointly with my committee, which has oversight of the chief technology officer, to examine tech failures. And last month, and also we need more of them and we need more experienced ones. And we need to ensure that people show up to work and have the incentives to do so, so that we do not end up on the weekends with the slow response times, with the dropped calls, with callers being placed on hold. So to be a focus of mine. Here in 1B, some things that we've been working on, working very closely with Cleveland Elementary School on some challenges they are having, with DCPS, Department of General Services, and the PTO and other relevant government agencies. Commissioner Chauvin has joined me at public meetings there as well. And I know the T Street Task Force met today and probably talked about that a bit as well. We have some new signage going up around the school just to remind folks that it is a drug-free zone, though signs are not required for the enforcement. And MPD continues to work on that. Very exciting thing going on in 1B. The performance parking zone is now active. So you'll notice the new signs in certain parts of the arts overlay. And those signs indicate people can pay by phone or by app to park. And the blocks in the zone, the blocks in the pilot are all pay or permit, meaning on those blocks, you must either have a resident parking permit, a visitor parking permit, or you pay. Makes sense, right? Public space is very valuable. We want to make sure that visitors value that space while they're here. And if you have a visitor who's coming to your house, or a vendor or anyone else that's associated with your residence, you are always welcome to use the visitor parking permit so that your guest doesn't have to pay. But we know a lot of people come to the district, to the area, that are not associated with our residential properties. And for those people, we want them to pay, and we want them to pay a reasonable amount. And so the price fluctuates based on demand. It's higher on the weekends and the evenings. And I had a chance to talk with some of our parking enforcement staff the other day about how it's going, and they said it's going well. The signs are clear. People, a little bit of vandalism out the gate, but they resolved that on one of the kiosks. Human beings, man, right? This week more than ever, we know that. So I'm excited about that. And as a reminder, in addition to being good policy and something we should do more of, this particular performance parking zone will funds that will be reinvested back in the U Street area, which we are very excited about. Very soon, some of you have seen, but very soon, it went out. Yeah, there it is. It's back. Okay. You'll see new legislation that I'm introducing in January. It's my highest priority for next year. We're calling it the Duke District. It is a community management authority. It's not something that we have right now in the District of Columbia, but we have in neighboring jurisdictions, where you take that revenue and you fund a district that has a board, that has staff, and that manage the area. So bringing together in a very strategic way, the clean team, the Main Street, overseeing the public properties in the area, like the theaters that the district owns. And the idea is U Street has long needed a structure to manage all of the things going on here. So I'm very excited about this. I know some of you are also very excited about it. It's a long time coming. We know there have been a lot of efforts in this area over the years, since before even my time on the ANC, to come up with a place management entity for this area. I do think that by creating the funding stream to go with it, we will succeed this time. And not have to rely on property owners and self-taxation to try to bring this together like we would with a bid. So stay tuned. We are calling it the Duke District, after the Duke small area plan for this area. And at the same time, the legislation will include a neighborhood management authority for Columbia Heights, which will similarly leverage parking revenue with the garage that we have there. What else? I am just delighted to be in your presence. Thank you, everybody who ran again. Thank you to those who are retiring. Congratulations to the new commissioners. And I look forward to continuing to work with everybody in whatever capacity you serve in here in our community. And I'm happy to take any questions at the pleasure of the chair.
Thank you so much, council member. I'm going to go down the line just as I see. And then if any community members have questions, we will get to those. Please raise your hand. And then community members who are online, also please raise your hand and we will get to those. Commissioner Lakatos.
Hi, yeah, I had two quick questions. So first, I've been having an issue over here on the 2100 block of Vermont Avenue. The DDOT owned medians, there's like overgrowing weeds, but DPW suspends like lawn and mowing services in the I guess after September. Which I don't know if that was the intent was because it would get cold, but it's not. As we could all tell, being outside today, I don't know if there's anything that we can do about that, just because the weeds are going to keep growing, and I've been getting a lot of complaints about it, but also just we should be adapting to the fact that it's hotter. I know you know that.
For sure.
I'll follow up with you about that, but I wanted to
Great.
flag it.
I appreciate that.
And the second question is, I'm not asking you to kind of like comment on this publicly, but there's been a lot of talk about what would happen with the control board and kind of what that would look like. I know this has been fomenting more in the last couple of days. Is that something that the council can ask or has asked the attorney general to look at what the district's options would be, if that would be something that they would try to trigger in a new administration, just because I know that there's like definitions about financial emergency. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but I don't know if there's something they're looking at.
Yeah. Your question is broadly about congressional interference, right? Which we are very familiar with on some level. And I personally have had bills that I've passed considered again by members of Congress, which is always exciting. So we are talking as a government, all three branches, about how to work together with the new administration, which to some degree is an administration we've worked with before, but also always, what do we do about a hostile Congress? And we have folks whose job it is on the Hill to do this work. I think if Congress does end up entertaining legislation to revoke home rule and operate their own version of the commissioners that were here before, it will certainly be wise for everybody here to, a government that's been around for 50 years, that has passed all its own laws, that is now a, multi-billion-dollar entity, is a lot of work and a challenge for someone to run from afar. I think, I hope that is a compelling message, because frankly, I think it's more than they might bargain for, right? And we can't know what's going to happen. We don't know what tack they're going to take, but we're staying prepared and we're sticking together and we're going to keep working together. And I know that the public, it will be with us in that fight if it comes down to it. I know they have a very aggressive agenda in Project 2025 that they'll be wanting to implement that has even more ramifications for the people of the District of Columbia. So no one thing in there, they're all bad. They're all bad. And when it comes to the benefits that we offer our most vulnerable residents, or, our infrastructure projects, anything we get federal funding for is at risk. And so we're going to have to also focus on that in addition to sort of the big looming thing.
Commissioner Jones.
Thank you. I took a bite at the wrong moment. So two questions, both about DPW operations. You mentioned that I'm just going to ask both of them for the sake of time. First one is, you mentioned that DPW has recently leased a third impound lot due to their failure to dispose of cars that they've already impounded. Can you speak a little bit about why DPW has not been able to auction off or for cars that are not auctionable, destroy, to free up more space for seized vehicles? And then second off, I'm sorry, just got back to the country yesterday, so I haven't followed up with your team on this, but I've received neighbors' concerns that DPW is once again removing trash without giving notice. I know this is something that bothers you, and I think Councilmember Lewis George also has been on this case as well. My neighbors are disappointed when the city reduces its level of service to us without any notice, and it's okay that the city needs to reduce level of service or adjust level of service sometimes, but when a trash can goes away, the trash doesn't go away. It's just on our streets instead of in the can.
So you mean the public litter cans?
Yes,
Okay. Can you let us know where?
I'll do that. And
Okay.
writing, yeah.
There, does it happen to be near any construction projects?
At least a block away.
Okay. Okay. We'll get down to it. We are in the throes of finishing up the Clean Collections Act, which I am very intent to put in the law that DPW must install the litter cans in residential areas if requested and approved by the ANC, because right now their policy is to not do it, which just like doesn't get what we deal with. I mean, I'm not suggesting they start putting them all over the Palisades, but we're working on the language right now to get that right. And I think it'll probably be something like a block away from a commercial corridor, which should cover the majority of Ward 1. The DPW impound lot is actually, I'm going to turn that around. It's not a negative, it's a positive. It's that they're towing so many vehicles that they needed another lot. There are rules about how long they must possess a vehicle before they dispose of it. So you get a chance to redeem. Yeah. So I think it's not much longer than 30 days, but they're getting so many off the street. So yeah.
And for those of us who are online, apologies. We're not really sure what's going on with the Wi-Fi, but we understand that it's breaking up, but we are trying to do what we can to fix it. So keep letting us know if it is cutting out, but also know that we are trying to do our best to fix what we can. Commissioner Handerhan.
I will be super quick, but hello, Councilmember Nadeau, really glad you're here. Would just ask for a little bit of help with a change in the WMATA's Better Bus Plan that came out on Tuesday. I represent LaDroit Park, very supportive of keeping bus access to LaDroit, including what I think is a really compelling east-west map that connects our neighborhood to Georgetown. There are just a couple things that are pretty ludicrous to me, including a bus that goes up 4th and down 3rd. And the community has not, we only learned about this on Tuesday. And I've been asking for quite some time to get more information from WMATA, just so people can share feedback on the specific bus route. They've been really resistant. It's been incredibly frustrating. I think that I would just reiterate the general support that I've heard from the community, but some details kind of matter. And I'm not a transportation expert, but I did consult with our transportation chair and some folks on your staff, and we all agree the current map is a little funky. And so happy to engage with WMATA. We're kind of told don't bother by them. And so
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Kind of thought that might be the case. So I don't know if there's anything you suggest that we do at this point.
I believe the board adopted it today. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it is where it is at the moment, but I still want them to come out and do a meeting and explain themselves. And
Yeah.
before they said they weren't coming until this vote was done.
Which is
So I guess
opposite of what you would
we
think.
can try again. I know there are some obvious flaws with the way this was rolled out. And I think one of the biggest challenges is the budget limitations, that this was not the most robust offering that it could possibly be. There were other challenges across the board as well. And, there were a lot of public meetings, people weighed in, but in this case, this route was a surprise. And I think that's the biggest frustration that the public has. It's like, how do you weigh in on something that you didn't know was going to happen? And,
Exactly.
right. So
like such an unforced error.
right. Like, don't people don't know they need to show up and say, yes, I like this. Because if it's something they like, then it's in the map.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay. Yeah. We're on the same page here.
Okay. To be continued. Thanks.
Yeah.
Are there any other commissioner questions? Commissioner Sycamore.
Thank you for coming, council member. It's great to see you again. Thank you so much for the recycling on the cans. I'm a native New Yorker and it's a great program. We can do it for fundraisers for kids and schools. And it's a great incentive for people to really pick up their recycling. So thank you so much for that. One thing I believe is under your purview is DPW's responsiveness. I have a lot of constituents that are contacting me saying they just are constantly trying to get a hold of DPW and they never respond until you get a DC government email involved and council members. And sometimes I have to put in, your constituent services. Nicole's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. And other council members into this before they actually even give you an email response. So if there's anything that you can do on that front to try to maybe hold them a little bit more accountable for responsiveness, that'd be absolutely fantastic.
Do you happen to remember off the top of your head what types of requests they are?
So a lot of it is missed street cleaning. A lot of it is actually to bounce off Commissioner Jones. Was it Commissioner Jones? Talking about garbage. No, I'm sorry. It was Commissioner Licatos about the weeds and things of that nature, like the district-owned property, trying to get that taken care of. Specifically, I think it's like 2300 block of Florida Avenue. There's a whole bunch of areas there. Yeah, so that a lot of it has to do with cleanup. And also trying to address trash cans and things of that nature as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and parking enforcement is also another big one. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful. Absolutely. We can work together on that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Commissioner Kinsick.
Thank you for being here, council member. Appreciate it. I wanted to find out if you had any cost breakdowns on this pilot bathrooms that we've been pushing. If you know that information, these module bathrooms.
The thrones?
The thrones, yes, and how they're doing, the cost and what the upkeep's becoming, and we can get the details, Nicole and I later, but I just wanted to see overall how the pilot is going with that.
It's going really well. The cost to the district is about $80,000 a year per toilet, which is pretty affordable. The company services them completely based on usage because it's all digital, so they know how many people have gone in and out. They also are constantly monitoring the cleanliness ratings, which is another way to know when they need to be cleaned. I think that this has been really successful and that we should expand it. There was not enough time in the last fiscal year to say, yeah, we should put more money into this. So we sustained the funding levels. But I know there are other neighborhoods that have seen them and are asking for them. I know there's a request for one to go in by the Howard Theater. And, I can imagine a whole bunch of other places. As the author of the Public Restrooms Act, I think they should be everywhere and they should be widely accessible. So this is a really affordable way to do it. And it's a way to do it that we ensure through the contract that they are well maintained rather than relying on the government's maintenance schedule of public restrooms, which is standard about once a day cleaning.
Thank you. Also, a while ago, you had brought up about some anti-rat trash cans, I want to say about 6 or 7 months ago, and I think we were doing a pilot on that as well. What is the status of that and how is that working out?
That pilot did not pan out because we did not get the resident buy-in on those blocks. We could not get the percentage that was required under the law of people agreeing to do it. And I don't want to give up on that entirely. So you may hear about that again in the future, but the funding that I allocated to that is being repurposed for 2 things. One is some big belly cans you'll see throughout the city. Those are the ones that compact, solar powered, trash and recycling, and then also smart compost bins. I believe there's one going into Reeves. Do I have that right? One going at Reeves? Yes. Okay. So that'll be the one over here, and those will be anytime composting bins. So for those who live in multifam, don't have time to get to the farmer's market, you can just walk down and float through your compost in any time of day. And I think between that, the curbside programming, and where you can, for single family homes, and the farmers markets, we're making a lot of progress in sort of normalizing, putting our organics into those separate areas. That also is a great way to reduce rats, because you're getting the food out of the green litter cans. And these are rat-proof containers. So there'll be 22 citywide. And I look forward to hearing how you like them.
Yeah, and if I could help push that agenda, I'd love it. That's great. The next thing is Department of Buildings has been very difficult at best to get a hold of for some concerns on SMD. I did get a name last week from, I believe, your assistant, who I appreciate, Shanae Gregory. I'm waiting for his return. He's out of the office right now, but a lot of them keep, when I'm sending to who my contact is, it says now contact this and this, but hopefully Shanae will get back. That's just a general note. And to Treasurer Licato's point about the mowing, I know when I worked with Department of General Services, we would get hit with those type of calls typically around this time, and that was back in 16 and 17. So Department of General Services normally would upkeep any of these miscellaneous areas that are not
That's
being
right.
done.
That's right. Yep. I didn't say that, but you're absolutely right. These public space areas are DGS, but we can work together on those too. Yep.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Great. Are there any other commissioner questions? Commissioner Chauvin.
Yes, good evening, council member. Thank you for presenting this evening. Two quick questions. Well, 11th Street Bike Lane resolution that came off of, approved by this commission. It asks for some specific things, and I have 5 amendments in there that are important. 2 of them speak to DPW, even though it's predominantly a DDOT resolution.
Mhm.
As an ex-ANC commissioner and council member, what do you think great weight means to you with what we should expect regarding a response from DPW on such things? 2 provisions in there regarding assessment of parking enforcement down the U Street corridor and improved staffing on the U Street corridor. Specific focus. What is our great weight? Those are provisions within the resolution. And I'm asking what your thoughts of great weight are here and how we should expect to hear from DPW on this.
Well, it doesn't much matter what I think, because you're talking about the executive branch, but I can tell you that both those items most likely require budget allocations. So you may hear that. Any sort of increase of staffing or any study, someone's got to pay for. That said, I added 40 staff for parking enforcement, booting and towing, and that'll help. And it'll certainly help with the U Street Task Force. This director added a later shift for parking enforcement, which seems pretty obvious when you think about it, because we need parking enforcement late into the night. And the task force helps with that too. But I'm certainly happy to help you follow up with them in the specifics. And did you all send it already to DPW?
We haven't sent it to DPW. That's a good reminder. We sent it to DDOT, but we'll flag it to DPW. Thank you
Great.
for the reminder, Commissioner Chauvin.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you. And then one
That's a
quick,
start.
thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. One quick one, drug-free zone, school zone, drug-free school zone.
Yeah.
We're getting run around for months. I thank you for, in your office, for signage. I think that's going up as we speak. But there is a runaround regarding its teeth and ability to be enforced and what enforcement means. And I'm wondering if you could continue a conversation with several interested folks to ensure that the school drug-free zone has the teeth and ability to do what we need it to do, and if not, consider change, because that school, Cleveland Elementary, is hurting, as you know. They're bombarded with a terrible situation on many fronts, and whatever we could do here in this question, because it's been raised for about 3 or 4 months, but we haven't gotten anywhere, and we've had differing answers and responses from what police can do.
Sure. And let me just give an answer that you could apply in other parts of the ANC as well. When people are doing drugs in public, the best intervention is outreach and engagement and getting them into treatment. When people are selling drugs in public, the best intervention is police work, right? Whether that's arrests, investigations, special ops, et cetera. You don't need a drug-free zone to do any of that, right? It's already illegal. You don't have to put up signs. It makes people feel better sometimes, but the truth is that it's already illegal. And so, you know, we've got a new commander. He's very interested in engaging in that area in particular. I've already seen him talking about his own time walking around and checking things out and identifying gaps in patrol. And so I think that new energy will be very helpful. And I think the new energy around the T Street Task Force will also be really helpful with the new chair, Ms. Gall. So I think it all goes together. But as far as it not having teeth, I mean, the police have the ability to enforce the law now with or without signs.
Thank you.
Great. I'm sorry, commissioners. Okay, Commissioner Fields, are you able to ask it quickly? I just want to be conscious of time. I know you've been waiting, but it's 7:10 and we do have to be out of here by 8:30. So.
Great. So my question just sort of focuses on the U Street parking performance. We specifically for my area have been requesting resident only parking for 1400 V Street. And DDOT told us that signs would change like in October, and we haven't seen our signs change. So just wanted to update for our area, and I think it's the south block of 1400 B Street.
It's definitely the south side because the north side, you have the church wanting their parking signs for their loading and unloading zone. We can follow up with you on that for sure, figure out what's going on with the sign shop. It is not the fastest office in the government. We'll work with you.
Thank you. Are there any community questions?
We get microphones, so. Sorry.
Thank you. Councilmember Nadeau, I have two quick questions. Can you give us an update on the status of the 1617 U Street Affordable Housing and Public Engagement Act? I believe it was your bill 250802, the status of that?
That's actually the mayor's, and it's not before the council, and I don't know of any update at this time.
So is it going to make this legislative session?
It's not a council bill. There's no legislation pending. There was a zoning commission case. So
No, this was a bill that I believe you introduced. I think I'm citing the correct number, B250802. And it was specifically targeted to the 1617 U Street site.
right, that's not a council legislation.
Okay, and the other question is, do you know where I can get information on the effectiveness of IZ and IZ Plus?
Sure, there have
and
been
it's-
some studies of that. The Department of Housing and Community Development would be the first place to start.
If I email your office, can you direct me to those?
Yeah, I mean,
studies?
yes, absolutely. Happy to help. I might have to do a quick Google, but I'm happy to help you find it.
Thank you.
I know you're a really important person in our city.
I think it's on. I can hear you. Just talk into it.
Yeah. I want to know how we can contact you and your office as easy as possible.
Sure.
Because the only people I know, this gentle lady and the other gentleman here, constantly I come and bother them and say, I have a problem. I don't have contact with the powerful people in the city, but some project happen in our community, which affect my life and our community. Our community, whatever they have to do, they did. But I was very disappointed with zoning department because the chairman said, I know the community is against this project. The vice chairman said, I'm pretty sure community against this project, but we vote for it.
Sure.
If we are
So you're
against it, what-
once again talking about the proposal that was before the zoning commission, which is an independent entity. But to answer your question, you can reach me anytime at bnadeau@dccouncil.gov. I'm very responsive there. If you're not an emailer, give a ring to the office and we'll set up a time to talk, 202-724-8181. I also hold monthly office hours. This month on the 14th, we will be at UAB Coffee Shop on 14th Street from 6 to 8. And we do it every month. So if you want some more FaceTime, come on out. I welcome it. We have great conversations one-on-one about whatever it is you'd like to talk about.
And we have time for one more question, but that is it. And we will make sure to drop Councilmember Nadeau's information. Nicole, her chief of staff, is also here with us this evening, but we only have time for one more question.
Thanks, Councilmember, for being with us. Corruption obviously is any government that's vulnerable to corruption. Can you give us a quick update on your colleague, Councilmember White's alleged bribery situation, how that Peacekeepers program is going? I know you're close to that program as well. Have the other contract recipients been reviewed at this point? And second question, what pieces of your legislation do you not think are going to make this year? And you'll have to restart in January. Thank you.
Great questions. The council has formed an ad hoc committee to look into the allegations against Ward 8 Councilmember Trayon White. We will be reconvening, I think, in like about 15 days to go over the findings of our independent counsel. And then we will consider the options before us, which are reprimand, censure, or expulsion. Simultaneously, there is a federal investigation and trial scheduled for April. And the council, I believe, seeks to act before then regarding our code of ethics and any impact on our body based on the findings. So I will not prejudge those findings, but that is the expectation. The mayor did a top to bottom review of the implicated programs. You may have seen there have been a couple more in other parts of government, Department of Youth Rehabilitative Services and the lottery contract. So that contract was not necessarily implicated, but some of the people involved were on that contract. And so that contract was canceled out of an abundance of caution. And so the mayor is doing a request for proposals next month for violence prevention services in wards 1 through 4. In the meantime, we are very fortunate to have a Cure the Streets team under the Office of the Attorney General continuing to serve Ward 1 very effectively. And the department itself, the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, continues to augment services here in Ward 1. They are all actively working on conflict resolution and mediation as we speak. Actually, there's some issues that we're trying to resolve between 1E and 1B. So.
Great.
It's not gonna get.
I'll talk to you after this. It's a medium-sized list.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Councilmember Nadeau. We'll be sure to drop your information into the chat for anyone who wants to reach out, but really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good meeting.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. It is an interesting time for DC and overall. So I appreciate everyone who is joining us this evening. I call this meeting to order at 7:19 p.m. Mr. Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Handerhan.
Present.
Commissioner Chauvin.
Present.
Commissioner Sycamore.
Present.
Commissioner Lakatos.
Present.
Commissioner Kenzik.
Present.
I'm present. Commissioner Fields.
Present.
Chair Harris.
Present.
Commissioner Jones.
Present.
With 9 of 9 commissioners present, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Commissioners, without objection, can we approve tonight's agenda? Agenda approved. Commissioners, you have a consent agenda before you, approval of the prior meeting minutes and speaking time. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Go ahead, Commissioner Chauvin.
Yes, I'd like to ask that if we review SOPs this evening, that the rules on commissioner comments be extended for 3 minutes. That's my amendment. This is important due to democracy. And actually, we'll review my motion for an amendment before I talk about it.
Commissioner Chauvin, we have to be out of here by 8:30, so I don't believe we have time. But if that is a motion, is there a second?
There is a second, and I confirm we have till 9. I just spoke with the front, so don't worry about that 8:30. Thank you.
All those in favor of the amendment? Opposed?
There was discussion missing.
Discussion.
Yes, this is an important issue of democracy. This is an important issue of being represented at the table. I think some people understand the democracy threats we're under. I think we should have more democracy versus less. And I believe we need to ensure that people speak on changing the operating procedures, standard operating procedures, so that the voice of the community is not disenfranchised. And as the matter before us is extensive, we should have the discussion time to ensure democracy and openness and fairness is presented unequivocally.
Commissioner Jones.
I'd be happy to entertain this motion if and when we get to the SOPs. I think it's preemptive to make an if-then clause in our consent agenda. I suggest that we just vote the consent agenda as written and move on with our business. Once we get there, I would be happy to support Commissioner Chauvin making the same motion.
Commissioner Sycamore.
Well, that's just redundant. Well, let's just vote on it now. So when we get there, so we don't have to waste time going through this whole process again. It's for time effectiveness. If we're worried about time, let's just vote on it now.
Well, we are voting on it because it is a motion for this amendment.
I'm
Are there
aware of
any
that.
other
I'm
points of
responding back to
discussion?
Commissioner Jones's.
Are there any other points of
Thank you
discussion?
for speaking over me. Thank you.
Yeah, the only other point, again, I think with the extra half hour that we have, we'll probably be able to handle those 3 minutes or the 1 extra minute that Commissioner Chauvin is asking for.
Are there any other points of discussion? All those in favor? Or in favor? Opposed?
Chair, are you supposed to vote?
Yes, I can vote. That is democracy. I do represent an SMT.
Okay.
3 against? Abstentions? Two abstentions. Can you all please raise your hands a little bit higher? Thank you. Sorry. The yeas have it. Okay, so on the consent agenda, we have the approval of the prior meeting minutes. The speaking time is 3 minutes for each commissioner with an additional 20-second comment at the discretion of the chair per topic. Do we have a motion to?
Madam
or
Chair,
wait, there
point
was a
of
motion.
order. Was the amendment to raise the limit to all 3 minutes across the board, or was it just on when we get to the SOPs?
Thank you. It is just in the SOPs. So thank you for clarifying that. So 3 minutes just for the SOPs, 2 minutes for everything else. Okay, that motion has been seconded or raised and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed?
Can you repeat the motion?
It was a motion you made. So the motion is to approve tonight's consent agenda with the approval of the prior meeting minutes and setting a speaking time of 2 comments of 2 minutes for each commissioner and community members with an additional 20-second comment at the discretion of the chair for all of the other topics except the SOPs, which the SOPs have a 3-minute comment time per commissioner.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you. Executive Officer reports. Commissioner Lakatos.
Aaron, would you please enable screen sharing? Thank you.
Yes. So we have the QFR for fiscal year 2024 Q4, which is, for those of you familiar with the federal fiscal years, that is July, August, and September. Commissioner Jones is helping me out because we're having some Wi-Fi issues. He has a better connection than me. He's going to share his screen. Give us a moment. You had to allow for it. Is it allow or something? All right, there we go. So as you can see here in this fiscal quarter, we received $5,681.96 in our allotment. We spent $127 in the category of personnel, $327.54 in the category of communications. Commissioner Jones, if you don't mind scrolling down to the next page, you can see here an index of the payments. I'm going to read them out so everyone understands. So we have the payroll maintenance fee. This is in the personnel category. So that's for our payroll provider. Then we have another expense for Zoom. This is before we transition to the district government Zoom account, which we are now on. We have $292.56 for the Squarespace, which is our website. Another maintenance fee for our payroll provider, Zoom again, and then a maintenance fee for our payroll provider, and then Zoom again. Does anyone have any questions about this financial report?
I'm not seeing any questions.
Seeing no questions, Madam Chair, I move that ANC 1B adopts the fiscal year 2024 Q4 financial report as presented.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you. Passed unanimously. Sorry. Sorry. Next, committee reports. Committee on Economic Development. Commissioner Jones.
Thank you. I'd like to have co-chair of this committee, Krishna Kumar, at the podium as well. I was out of the country on work travel last month, and I'm grateful for our community co-chair, Mr. Kumar, who led this meeting. Mr. Kumar, would you like to present, or would you like me to present? Thank you.
I have 2 minutes.
You have as much time as
you have as much time because you're
Then, no,
presenting.
We can be here until 10. All right. And maybe Commissioner Jones, maybe if you could put up that document I shared, it was called the side yard imagery.
Yes, one moment.
Well, I'll just start, and we'll try to get that document up. It's just some images to make it easier to visualize. At our last Economic Development Committee, we discussed the 1617 site again, and we looked at, it's a little complex. There were two text amendments that were made by the Office of Planning. One is what we're calling the setback amendment. This involved moving it was a vertical height transition that moved the building lot 40 feet. I'm sorry, it moved it 40 feet back from V Street. The second one is what we're calling the side yard transition, which involved the east side of the lot. So what our primary purpose of the meeting was to vote and adopt a resolution in support of the side yard proposal. Right here, we have the actual text of the amendment, which is kind of boring, but if you're interested in seeing it, that's what it looks like. I think we can maybe go down a little bit. So that one, I believe, is what the original, that's going to be the sort of general location of the site. V Street is on the top of that imagery. U Street is on the bottom, and you can see the side lot proposal will be on the lower right of that screen, right around there. So we can just try to go to the next one. And yeah, that's actually circled there. And so that's showing the area. And if you just go down to the next, so I actually went over there to take a picture so everyone can imagine what it looks like. So what we're talking about is on the right is the Rochelle apartment building. You've got that drainage ditch alley. No one knows quite what to call it because it's a very old pre-existing alley. It's about 4 feet wide. The building lot is where that fence begins. And then there's the alley, which is being used for the fire station. So what the side lot proposal is basically going to do is ensure that there's 12 feet between the two buildings, essentially making sure that the new building is built in roughly the same location as where that fire station wall is now. I paced it out. It's around 15.5 feet. The goal is to add a 12-foot side lot with the 4-foot drainage alley that will be about 16 feet between the two buildings. We voted, and that's what it looks like from the back. And that is actually, again, a little closer up. Most of these images I just cut and pasted from the OP presentation. So we voted on the resolution to approve the side lot. We also asked that OP provide slightly better imagery and do targeted outreach to the neighbors in that area. So that is, I'll let Commissioner Jones maybe introduce the resolution and talk about it. There was an additional discussion on the side yard. The side yard is, the OP is not recommending that the side yard text amendment be approved. I'm sorry, you're correct. The setback amendment be approved. We did not vote on the setback amendment, so we don't have a resolution for you on that. I believe there probably will be some questions on that, which I'm happy to answer. But that is the text of the amendment. As I said, approval of the side yard proposal, asking OP for additional pictures by the time of the zoning commission meeting on December 5th, and also for targeted outreach to those owners in question.
Thank you.
All right.
Commissioner Jones, do you want to introduce the resolution, or would you like to open it up for any discussion?
Sure. Would you like me to make a motion to introduce the resolution so we can specify, so we can limit discussion to just the resolution?
Sure.
Madam Chair, I move that ANC 1B adopt the resolution on zoning case 23-26 as proposed by the Economic Development Committee.
Second.
Discussion.
One second, let me discussion. Okay, Commissioner Jones has it up, I believe, over there. Is that correct, Commissioner Jones?
Madam Chair, this is the whereas section of the amendment, the resolution, and we have the let it be resolved section below the action section. If it's all right with everyone, I'll scroll down to let it be resolved, because that is the action part of the resolution. If you would like me, would you like me to read it out, ma'am? It is
Can
here.
you
I'm sorry that I don't have any paper. Is there, how would you like me to provide
Commissioner
it to you?
Jones, actually, that's great. We have it up there, but I think what you're requesting, can you provide, I don't think you should read it out, a summary. And then we can also
Sure.
send out.
This, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
The resolution, just the resolve clauses is as follows. Therefore, be it resolved, the ANC 1B supports the side yard text amendment in the zoning commission case 23-26. This will add proposed section 208.4 to subtitle G. The scope of the amendment covers the east part of the site, 145 feet. 145 feet back from U Street on square 175 lot 801. The 12-foot side yard will create a space of 16 feet between any new structure and the Rochelle Apartments building. 2, and that ANC 1B requests that the Office of Planning provide at the zoning commission hearing aerial illustrations and street level illustrations from the Rochelle Apartments and V Street roadhouses that includes vertical elevation drawings of the side yard and setbacks. And 3, the ANC 1B requests that OP confirm targeted engagement with the owners and residents of the V Street row houses prior to the zoning committee hearing.
The hearing is for December 5th, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Are there any discussion points?
Yeah, I have some. So
Also, Commissioner Kensett, can you wait? And I am looking around and I will get to you, but can you wait until I recognize you?
So the thing that I have a concern with is that what we've gone through with that 1617 street and site, and the fact that there's been a lot of things promised from OP. I know Commissioner Fields had some things that she had written in about light and this and neighborhood engagement, and that has not been done. I actually talked to, even though it's not in my SMD, I talked to some of those row houses personally who have not heard anything from OP. I do think that we are all in agreement with that set space, but what I'm questioning is if we're going to pass an amendment of 23-26, when it gets to the zoning hearing, they're going to just say, okay, it's good to go, but then they're not discussing the main points. So they're not giving clarity of a clarification of the proposal. The V Street setback still is part of the proposal. Is it? We don't know. The street level images, views, and what engagement they're doing. So, I don't know if it's a good idea to look to possibly have a meeting other than this, because our next commissioner meeting is December 5th, which is the day of the zoning meeting. So we might want to look at doing maybe a special meeting just on this. I do appreciate everything Mr. Kumar has done, and I've had some conversation with him. I just think if we are going to vote on it, we should have some kind of amendment or modifying text to explain that there is some questions when you have an office in zoning that's not logged anywhere. RA2 backed up to an MU10 zone that we approved. We should have something that gives the people, again, a chance to talk about this and actually hear from OP, which again, they have not. So I'm not asking for a motion to delay, but what I think is that we should really think about this vote, because when we pass or not pass with our great weight, December 5th comes and they're not going to look at all of this. They're going to say, okay, it looks like 1B was okay with it, when reality, there's nothing in black and white. And like I said, back on April 9th or 7th of 23, when everyone said it was a slam dunk, a year and something later, as we fought on about this and we made really good gains, now it's like we're getting right back into the corner that we were in. So, 40 feet lot depth as measured from property line to on south side of public alley, separating subject property from the rear of the lots 24 through 29, allowing a building height transition, which I do not see anywhere in black and white, and I've confirmed that with the OP office. So it is in good zoning practice, although this has been under the economic development. We will fix that next term, and it'll be under zoning. It is a good zoning practice that the zoning laws are set forth, and that the zoning commission doesn't vote in front of something on December 5th that the people have not had a chance to hear from, and they're not recognizing all these three foundations that we're asking for. Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Jones.
Commissioner Kinzig, just a question on that. Are there concerns with the substance of what is being proposed, or are your concerns primarily about the process by which it's being proposed?
I would say more so process, because again, I think we're all pretty much in agreement with the side yard. That's one aspect of it, but the parts that are missing that is important is the OP clarification, actually, like the zoning issue of 23-26. The text amendment doesn't clearly state anything about what I had just gone over. I don't want to read it again, but about having the clearance in the back, the 60-foot high versus 40 feet back from the property in questions in lot 24 through 29. So again, we're agreeing to one aspect. When I spoke to Mr. Kumar earlier, we was talking about, well, maybe we do a separate resolution for that. But again, I just think it's right now, the public's not aware. It might be something in the best interest for the 1B committee, especially with, I think 7 of us leaving, or a couple of us leaving, whatever it may be, that we actually have to talk about this before we move on to the date of December 5th. So I think that we should have a special meeting before then and talk through this and make sure that everyone's on the same page. Because right now they are not, and people are not understanding why we're putting a resolution forward on just a side yard that we're all in agreement, yet there's nothing in writing from OP or the office saying that this is going to be, because it's an RA2 backed up to an MU10, that there's nothing in black and white. There's been nothing changed from the original document, and that's what I'm questioning. And I've questioned a lot of things with OP after what I've seen with the Reeve Center and what I've seen with 1617. So I have some valid concerns, and as so not even my own constituents, other constituents in the area.
Do you have something, Commissioner Trindade, or I'm out? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Okay.
Commissioner Jones, if we could just take a step back, and there's a very basic question in the Q&A, and I appreciate the community member for raising it. What is the practical purpose of the side lot? And I think I'd like to tack on to that. Can you just zoom out a little bit for us and explain why we're talking about this and why is this being handled separately from the setbacks? Set the scene here.
So if anybody from the Office of Planning is in the audience and would like to raise their hand so we can have them explain why they're proposing it, that would be better than me trying to do it. In the meantime, unless I see any hands, I will make an attempt to explain someone else's position.
I am not seeing anyone from OP. Did you all invite anyone from OP?
I don't believe there was a special invitation. They are aware of when this meeting was, but I don't think, I personally did not make a special
Okay.
outreach to them to be here, no.
Can, Krishna, are you able to summarize anything, or Commissioner Jones? I think it is really worth understanding what's in front of us.
You can hear me? Okay. So on the side yard proposal, the essential purpose is to preserve light and space for residents of the Rochelle. This was brought up in the previous, ANC hearings, and that they basically, as I said, if you think about it, they're keeping the buildings about the same distance as they currently are. So that's why the side yard proposal is useful. On the setback proposal, OP's position, as they've written, is that because it's been moved to an MU4 zone on the north side of the lot, and now you have 80 feet of separation between the MU10 zone and V Street, that is sufficient for light and space, and that's why they're not moving forward on and not recommending that the zoning commission approve the setback text amendment.
Thank you. Are there any other points of discussion? Are there any community questions,
Sure.
comments?
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I saw Commissioner Sycamore's hand first.
Hi, so I want to piggyback on Commissioner Kenzik. I've been trying to figure all this out, and the fact that we are having a discussion here that none of us know what we're actually voting on and that people don't understand what's going on is a problem. The fact that OP has not reached out to the community is a problem. The fact that we are sitting here saying, can you just give us a quick little summary and nobody knows what's going on is a problem. So I think that we need to have OP go out, talk to the community, and make sure that we do have an understanding. The community has an understanding. We have an understanding of what this text amendment is, because there's nothing on their website. There's nothing in the log here that explains what is going on in this text amendment. No, nobody knows. So what I want to see before I can put my vote into anything is I want to make sure that everybody knows what's going on. So I would like to raise a motion to put this to a special meeting at some point before December 5th to make sure that we have the community engagement and that we as a commission have the knowledge to actually vote on this with a good amount of information to move forward.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam Chair, point of order. We have a motion on the floor already, which is to approve or not approve the resolution.
We're allowed to have two motions. It's okay.
Are we?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Discussion. Commissioner Sycamore.
Yes, and then just to continue on this, if we were to vote on this at this point and how this looks, OP would not be in compliance with the comprehensive plan, and it'd be encroaching upon designated neighborhood conservation areas, the NCA. And it's directly behind 6 row houses that are injecting the MU10 height building directly adjacent to an RA2, which is some of the lowest zoning density next to some of the downtown's highest density. So without any of this clarification, it's a complete contradiction of the comp plan. And I think that this is just way too general, way too broad. And I want to make sure that we have good community input before we have any sort of this, because that is our job as a commission, to make sure that we bring the voices of our constituents to the table so we can make the most best educated decisions and votes possible. Thank you.
Commissioner Handerhan.
So I guess I have can I ask a question? Krishna, did this come up in the meeting last month, the committee meeting?
Krishna, and you can just stay up there if you want.
So yes, we did have a discussion on the setback at the meeting. It was many of the same issues were brought up about the vertical height. In the end, we did not have any, motions brought forward to support the setback proposal. And as I said, the OP is not recommending that the setback proposal be approved. If Commissioner Sycamore brought up that he's a little confused on what the text amendment actually says, if you go to that other document, Commissioner Jones, that's why I included that the actual text of the text amendment in there, so you can see exactly what we're asking you to approve.
It's linked in the agenda. There's a hyperlink.
So that is the actual text of the side yard text amendment, which we're asking the zoning commission, that we're weighing in and asking the zoning commission to approve.
Okay, thank you. To me, there's been a lot of conversations about this property, and I feel like if commissioners aren't clear on what they're being asked to vote on in the agenda, the right place for a lot of these conversations is at the committee level. That's where you can like dig in. So I will be opposing this. I don't think it's appropriate precedent. I also think it's not true that OP hasn't talked to the community. They've talked to the community a lot on this. And I think I'd rather see us resolve this tonight than have a special meeting on a project that has had a lot of meetings. And I know not everyone's happy with it. And I understand and respect that, but I don't think a special meeting is the way to address this. And every commissioner has the opportunity to go to the committee meetings to raise these kind of concerns.
Commissioner Trindade Durama.
Thank you. Just to go back and clarify again, and I don't know if it's Commissioner Jones or Co-Chair Kumar that needs to address this. I understand that looking at the zoning case, I understand it deals with the side yard and the setbacks. This resolution from committee only deals with the side yard. And it sounds like the Commissioner Sycamore, if I understand correctly, is concerned about the setbacks as well. So we're sort of talking about two different things at the same time. Can you help us put them into two different buckets and make sure we're talking about the same thing?
I can try. So let's go back a little earlier, and we had the initial proposal to rezone this site. And the proposal was to zone everything to MU10. We had a number of hearings about this. There was general concern that was brought up and that the ANC properly weighed in about the entire MU10 zoning. In November of 2023, as a result of these hearings, what OP said is, we heard you. We're going to propose the setback proposal in order to create an easier vertical transition for the houses on V Street. Okay. And at the same time, proposing this very minor side yard one as well, basically preserving the existing things. Let's go forward another couple months. What happened there is then there's two separate cases, 23, 26, and the other zoning case. In the other zoning case, it was decided by the zoning commission that they're going to implement an MU4 zone and an MU10 zone. I'm sorry.
I apologize. It was not set by the zoning commission. It was set by OP. They also reiterated that they heard the community, so they reduced their footprint of the MU10.
Yes. And as a result of that, these other two amendments were kind of on hold until we heard about that decision. Now we're finally looking at decisions. OP's view, and I can't speak for them, but I'm just saying this is what how they've articulated it, is that the side yard is still necessary and that the setback is not necessary. And that's why the committee only voted on the side yard.
That the setback provision was not necessary because it's already covered by the compromise of MU4, MU10.
Yes.
Okay. As a factual point, is there a difference between, I mean, like 3 inches or like what?
There is a difference. there's going to be a different vertical transition in the back of those 6 row houses versus the rest of them. Okay. There will be the back of the 6 row houses, the vertical transition there will be higher
Under which plan? Under the compromise MU4, MU10?
under the compromise.
Okay. And the committee chose not to take a position just because they thought it was close enough.
Yeah.
Are there any other discussion points?
We are,
So I feel like you've had,
Sorry.
but also just as a, also just as a point, we are, we have we have 2 motions on the table right now. We have one on the resolution and we also have one on holding a special meeting. Just want to make sure everybody is aware of that.
The issue here is a zoning commission case 23-26. 23-26, as it stands now on the zoning commission case log, is proposing 2 text amendments as part of that case. The setback behind the 6 row houses on the eastern side of V Street and the side yard between the Rochelle Apartments and the current fire station. Those are both in that zoning commission case. We cannot separate them and only approve one and not the other. It's one case. We have to vote on it as one case. And I take a little bit of, I disagree with Krishna about what the OP said in the Economic Development Committee meeting. At first, Jennifer Steingasser did say that the setback, they no longer thought the setback was relevant behind those 6 row houses. But at the very end of the committee meeting, she said, oh, wait a minute, that still is on the table. And in fact, it still is on the table because that's what's in the official documents on the zoning case log. So if OP is suddenly saying we don't want that setback, they don't think it's necessary, then they have to put an amendment on the case log to say this is our new text amendment. They can't just disregard it completely without some kind of notification. And the position of the community is that, yes, that setback behind those 6 row houses is very relevant. The purpose of it was to, as you said, for the side yard, light and space. Well, light and space between or in back of those 6 row houses is very, very relevant. You're going from an RA, as Jamie said, you're going from an RA2 zone, the shortest zone, immediately up to MU10, which is a downtown 100 feet plus zone without any kind of transition. And the text amendment that was proposed by OP back 1 year ago, almost 1 year ago, called it a height transition text amendment. That's what this is all about, height transition. There is no good zoning practice that goes from 50
I'm sorry,
feet.
your time
I'm
is up.
sorry, 50 feet, because
Your time
nobody
is
ever
up.
brought this up. You're voting on half of a zoning case and it makes no
Your
sense.
time is up. Are there any other discussion points? Go ahead, Commissioner Kinsick.
I'd actually like to hear the rest of what Arlene says, so I'd like to yield my time to her. So 2 minutes, Arlene, if you could finish what you were saying.
There's no such thing as yield your time, but I will grant you 20 seconds.
Wait till she gets the mic, please.
The light and the space issues are very important, but also if you look at the comprehensive plan, as Jamie said, the comprehensive plan, the generalized policy map shows the U Street corridor going on the left side of that picture there. It would go all the way across to the east. That's the U Street corridor to the south, and it's a neighborhood conservation area to the north. You're proposing, if you accept this, you're proposing an MU10 zone right behind a neighborhood conservation area. And that is not good zoning practice, and it's actually inconsistent with the comprehensive plan.
Just to clarify, we are not proposing any of this. We are not approving. We are submitting support to the zoning commission that then approves and then sets those things up. We do not have a approval in this. We can, we have that ability. Can someone bring the mic over?
Hi there. I'm Courtney on Seton Street near this proposed project or upzoning. This continues to be a bit of a bait and switch and cup game that the OP plays with us. So it was their suggestion that we step back, which is a common sense measure from V Street. They then, with the help of zoning, figure out to, okay, we're going to actually make that a different zone, a split zoning, which we, of course, were told that didn't exist. It does exist. That's where we're at. But this is the bait and switch that's going on right now is they've taken only half of V Street for that setback, step back, whatever you want to call that height transition. And that's what you're omitting in your proposed approval with the side yard, which the side yard, again, also a common sense approach to things makes sense at the very least. It doesn't make sense to omit the half of V Street that they're trying to like make us forget about, because they will assume that you're just approving that. So if you're going to approve it, but know what you're approving. You're leaving half of V Street out to dry in terms of having a 2-story home, and many of them, and they're actually modest. They're not like these big fancy townhomes, by the way. So I think they would qualify as existing affordable housing up against a 10+ story. Can you guys hear me okay? Against a 10+ story building. Thank you.
Commissioner Jones.
Thanks. My concern is that if we don't pass something like this, then there will not be demonstrated community support for what we have. It sounds like there is continued. So it sounds like from our neighbors who are here this evening that one second, let me try to find exactly. It sounds like just the side is, so I'm sorry, Co-Chair Kumar, in this case 23-26, does that include both the setback and the side yard, or are those two separate cases?
It's the same case in 23,
just
26,
two different
but it's
aspects of
two
it.
different text amendments.
In that case, it sounds like what we should do is support the whole case, right? Because it sounds like what our neighbors are concerned about is that we're trying to split one part of it that we like and then be silent on the other. And it sounds like supporting the whole case would assuage those concerns. Is that more or less correct? Could someone please hand our neighbor the microphone?
And if you
just
notice
so
in
that
their
people
case,
around.
like if you try to pull up the case, there's no picture, there's a lack of.
And Nicole, would you please confirm that the microphone is on?
Thank you, Nicole.
It's one case. It contains both text amendment language for the setback behind the 6 houses on B Street and text amendment language for the side yard between the Rochelle and the fire station. This is a zoning issue. Whatever goes in, whatever this case gets approved, the zoning commission is going to either approve or disapprove this case, the whole case, both issues, both parts of it. And that language is going to go into the zoning code.
So is your recommendation to us that we support the entire proposed 23-26?
Yes.
Okay.
But we need clarification first to make sure that OP is not reneging on that setback behind the V Street houses. Their PowerPoint presentation to the Economic Development Committee meeting on October 17th only focused on the side yard. It didn't even have a cover slide to say what date it was given or anything. It's not an official document. The official document is on the case log, Exhibit 2, case 2326, and a public hearing notice went out about the December 5th meeting, the December 5th hearing in the Zoning Commission. That public hearing notice also talks about the setback and the side yard. Both of those are in the official documents. And if you're going to approve that case, that's what we want to make sure we're getting both of those pieces in there. Because both are necessary, both.
May I respond? Arlene, I just have to fundamentally disagree with you. The issue here is that there are two separate text amendments. The zoning commission is going to do what the zoning commission is going to do. And our job here is to recommend what the committee, what I'm trying to represent is what the committee heard and move the resolution forward and asking the ANC for approval for. We're not deciding here. We're just saying this is what the ANC would like to see.
Madam Chair, I have a motion.
We already have two motions on the table.
My motion is to amend one of them.
Go ahead.
I move that ANC 1B amends the draft resolution on screen to strike the first clause and say replace with ANC 1B, that ANC 1B support zoning commission case ZC 23-26 as it currently appears on today's date.
Second.
On today's date.
Discussion.
Yeah, just can you remind me, and I'm sorry I missed that meeting, how many people are in this group that made the decision on this? The commission,
5 in favor, 0 against, 0 abstaining.
okay, so it's 5 people. Okay, great, thank you.
As the case 2326, what is that right? Yeah, 2326 appears on the case log. It still says a 40-foot setback on the western portion of V Street as well. And that was rezoned to leave it MU4, the split zone. So I don't want there to be any ambiguity saying there's a 40-foot setback on the west portion of V Street when it's now 80 feet back MU4. I mean, the whole thing is just, OP has really dropped the ball on this. They have not clarified anything, and they should have made an amendment after it was split zoned so that we could figure out what was going on. So I don't want to say approve it, and then somebody says, well, you only got a 40-foot setback when it
We
really
don't,
needs 80.
just as clarification, we do not approve anything. This is in front of the zoning commission and they can approve. We are simply supporting.
Okay, I don't want you to support something that's ambiguous.
Commissioner Fields has her hand raised.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Commissioner Fields.
Yeah, so I definitely think that we should include just more clarity surrounding the language of the setback. So if we could maybe include that, I mean, it was in the first clause, but I mean, if we want to put it in the second clause, just about the exact sizing of the setback, as far as the feet goes, if that's all right, Commissioner Jones.
It will take me some time to do that to make sure I don't miss any critical detail. So I would, if you would like to start working on language and send that to me right now, that would be great. But otherwise, no.
You can
And then-
still encompass, though, the motion to address the specifics of the amendment without actually having to put it in right now.
Madam Chair, I respectfully propose a different course, which I'm worried that is authorizing us to then vote on something we don't have the text in front of us on, and I don't want to do
We
that.
have seen the text. We have all seen the text because that text amendment came out at the same time this case was presented. It is for the setbacks for it. Are there any other discussion points? We do have a hand in the audience and I was not able to get to them. Are we able to take the person who has their hand up off of mute?
Thank you. This is Danielle Bryan. I just wanted to say that it was a misrepresentation that at the Economic Development Committee that this was clear and that OP made it clear. And I wanted to support Arlene's argument that it is absolutely not clear. There was no discussion around these setbacks at the time. And so I I just really want to echo that I very much appreciate Commissioner Fields suggesting that it be very clear in this language that if you are saying you support the setbacks that remain in this text amendment, that it needs to be there, because that is not what was happening in the committee meeting.
Commissioner Fields, I know I needed to take myself off of mute.
Yeah, so just surrounding language for Commissioner Jones, if we want to put in there, observing the setback on V Street, as in line with MU4 regulations, no taller than 40 feet in height, I think that would provide clear language. If you want something different or more concise, I'd be happy to, work on that after, as Chair Harris said. But yeah, it's crucial to include so that that doesn't get lost, as OP agreed that they would do that.
Commissioner Fields, just a request, can you put that in the chat? And then also sorry, I am operating on jet lag right now, so I'm a little less functional than I'd like to be, so I appreciate your patience, and that's why I'm requesting things in text. The other, I would be happy to entertain, at the chair, I'm sure the chair would be happy to entertain any amendments that can be introduced by text so that we can all understand them properly. I apologize, I'm the one that's not understanding them properly. Let me make that clear.
Let me also make clear that the zoning commission is not going to look through our resolution with a fine tooth comb. They will have the amendment in front of them that then states the setbacks that were originally requested by OP. However, we can include that. That does not go against your amendment, Commissioner Jones. I realize that you want that, Commissioner Fields, I know that you want that in there, and we can put that in there, but I think that is having to do that tonight is not necessary to move this forward.
Madam Chair, I'd like to call the question on the motion to amend.
Second.
Okay. We need to go through the motion from Commissioner Sycamore first. Commissioner Sycamore, can you repeat your motion?
Yes, gladly. Motion is to delay the vote on zoning case 2326 until a later date, to host a special meeting prior to our December 5th meeting to ensure that OP provides appropriate outreach and receive feedback from the community members, and to ensure that commissioners are well versed in the text amendment prior to the vote.
And that was seconded by Commissioner Kinsick. All those in favor? 2 yeas. All those opposed? That is 5 nays. Abstentions? 2 abstentions. Motion fails. Okay, Commissioner Jones, you have an amendment and a motion. Can you please restate those if you can?
Yes, the amendment is what I would suggest we vote on first. The amendment would change the first clause of the draft resolution to read instead, therefore let it be resolved that ANC supports the zoning commission case ZC 23-26 as it appears on Thursday, November 7th, 2024.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Discussion?
No discussion because it was called to question. 5 in favor? Opposed? 3 nays. Abstentions? 1 abstention. Motion passes. Is that it?
Madam Chair, I would like to call the question on the main resolution as it appears before us, now amended.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Can you please restate your motion?
The motion was that ANC 1B adopt the draft resolution concerning zoning case 23-26 as proposed by the Economic Development Committee.
That was seconded before by Commissioner Lakatos, correct? Okay. All those in favor? 5 yeas. Opposed? 3 nays. Abstentions? Or was that 6 yeas? 6 yeas. I apologize. 0 abstentions. Motion passes. Thank you.
The motion that just passed was adopting the resolution that I put on the board as amended per your request to include the to not attempt to differentiate between the setback and the side yard. Just say that we support it as it appears today on case 23-26, the entirety of case 23-26.
Right. Yeah. And that wasn't the motion as it was repeated, so I don't think we voted on it as that.
That was the motion, but we can read the motion again. We did incorporate and voted in favor of the amendment as well. But Commissioner Jones, if you would like to repeat it,
the motion that I made and that was seconded was that ANC 1B adopt the resolution supporting zoning commission case 23-26 as amended just now. With the amendments that we've approved just now, that says ANC 1B supports the zoning commission case ZC 23-26 as it appears on Thursday, November 7th, 2024.
Is there like a technical clarification, like as it appears like in the case log or something?
Sure.
Just to, I think that's I think everyone reads that as the intent.
Understood.
it's okay. We got it. Okay. We will send this out, but we captured what you all wanted. Don't worry. Thank you. Okay. Next. Sorry, I do not have it up.
I'm sorry. I just want to go back. I don't think that the case log clarifies the 40 feet setback, which is what we were trying to clearly request. So if we just say the case log, it doesn't necessarily clarify within the MU4 on the backside of V Street.
The case log incorporates the text amendment. The text amendment is in the case log, so that incorporates that.
Don't think so, but okay.
It does.
One moment.
Krishna, if you want to, while Commissioner Jones is pulling up what he needs to pull up, are there any other updates from economic development?
No other updates. Our next meeting will be scheduled on November 21st. And I think that was the only other thing we had.
Thank you. Okay.
Madam Chair, I move to suspend the rules to allow Commissioner Trindade Duramo to go over case log 23-26
No,
for a duration of 4 minutes.
no,
Madam Chair, is my motion in order?
your motion is out of order.
Madam Chair, point of order. Can you please provide a reason why my motion is out of order?
Your point of order is out of order. Commissioner Trindade Duramo, you have 1 minute.
My understanding, I've put on the screen the initial memo from the case log. This is from November, a year ago. And this is where it stipulates the 40-foot height transition setback after 60 feet of building height in the MU10 zone on the northern side and the 12-foot side yard in the MU10 zone from any lot line adjoining an RA zone, basically the 12-foot side yard on the eastern side that we've seen. So my understanding is that by referring to the case log in the motion, we're incorporating the memo. Correct. Right. So that seems clear to me, unless we want to specifically cite in the resolution the set down memo dated November 20th, 2023. That's kind of a clerical amendment, I think. Does that make sense? Oh, Commissioner.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is when we were talking about the economic development meeting, it was mentioned that the 40-foot setback was not included. I'm on the case report page, which is on DC's Office of Zoning website now. And the only text amendment they have including is the building height transition setback and a side yard to the MU10 zone on square 175. The 40-foot setback is from MU4. And so I just think, again, the clarity in the language would provide a substantial amount of wording that we'd be able to look back to as opposed to just the text amendment in the case log, which is referencing this document, but could easily be confused.
It's not going to be confused because it's in the zoning commission's hands. They have this on their case. Commissioner Jones.
Commissioner Fields, if you could please provide proposed amendment language in writing, I would support an amendment. I'm sorry. I wasn't checking the chat. I see that you have done that. I apologize. Sorry, it just didn't go to me, so.
So if Commissioner Fields wants to, do you want to move this amendment?
Sure, I can. I like to move that we use the language proposed. Do you guys want me to read it out? I can.
Yes.
All right, that sounds good. Thanks, Chair Harris. ANC 1B supports zoning commission case 2326 with side yard language and a maximum height of 40 feet, a 40 feet setback on V Street as outlined by MU4 regulations.
There's a person in the chat I just wanted to respond who's saying we could just reference exhibit number 2. Exhibit number 2 is the set down memorandum that we've been looking at. We're all talking about the same document here.
And that's what we're referring to in the case log. This is in the case log under the exhibits. When you go to the ISIS app, it's under case documents. It is in the case document. So when we say case log, it is already encompassed in that. Do we have a second to Commissioner Fields' motion?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Sorry, Madam Chair, I would like to read that out again.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I apologize, Madam Commissioner Fields, just not showing up in my chat. Give me one moment to look at it on Commissioner Trindade Duramo's screen.
Yeah, it's not showing up on mine either.
It says that ANC 1B supports zoning commission case 2326 with what side yard language is supposed to be inserted and a maximum height of 40 feet as outlined by MU4 regulations. We could also do your amendment, which just clarifies that we're talking about exhibit number 2, which is the set down memorandum dated November 20th, 2023, which I think is tidier, but up to the chair.
Would you please turn that this way?
So, yeah. Oh.
It says memo on the top. It means the same thing. The zoning commission does. It's the title of the document, doesn't matter. Okay, we have.
Madam, I've just made the change that you asked. Just made the change that you asked.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion already. Is there any more discussion?
I just have a quick question. For some of the representatives, some of the residents that live here, Courtney and Arlene specifically, do you think this appropriately addresses your concerns so far?
Concerned about the western side of V Street.
You're a little concerned about the western side of V Street because it's still in their proposal. Okay. But, okay.
I don't see. Hope it doesn't muddy the waters.
But she hopes it doesn't muddy the waters because that's still MU4. Sorry, I'm repeating it for people online.
Yeah. Would someone please hand Ms. Vesconich the microphone? Thank you.
I think that addresses all the concerns, except for the western portion of V Street. I don't want any confusion that there's only going to be a 40-foot setback. But I think as Commissioner Fields said, it addressed it from whatever the MU10 zone was, there'd be a 40-foot setback. And right now, the western portion under the split zone, the western portion of V Street is MU4.
Mm-hmm.
So that setback wouldn't apply there. It would only apply behind those 6 row houses on the eastern side.
Okay.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair, may I please read out the language that I'm interpreting from Commissioner Fields' amendment
Yes,
so that I can
thank
make
you.
sure it's
Thank you.
correct? All right. Commissioner Fields, please correct me if I've misinterpreted what you're saying. As amended, the first clause would now read as follows. Therefore, be it resolved that ANC 1B supports the zoning commission case ZC 23-26 as it appears in the case log on Thursday, November 7th, 2024, as described in Exhibit 2 set down report dated November 20th, 2023. This includes keeping the maximum height of 40 feet in the area that is zoned as MU4.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
It's
Madam Chair, I'd like to call the question.
okay.
Second.
Is there a
I
second?
still have not had my
No,
my
it's
people
not.
answered
All
yet.
those in favor of the amendment
Wow,
that Commissioner
okay,
Fields has
thank you.
proposed. We passed a call to question. It already went. All those in favor?
Point of order, Chair. This is
Your point of order is out of order. There are, is your hand up?
What's the question? The amendment?
I was still in my amended, I was still on my time before you called that question. I still had not gotten a full answer yet.
We're voting on the amendment.
Sorry, just to clarify, we're voting on the amendment
But-
as it's on the screen, is that
but-
correct?
We're voting
Commissioner
on the
Jones
amendment as
encroached
that's-
upon my time.
We're voting on the amendment that's on the
Commissioner
screen.
Jones
So
encroached
all
upon my
those,
time. You
all
always have
of
favoritism,
those in
that's fine.
favor, all of those in favor.
That's fine.
It is fine. Okay, so
Whatever.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 yays. Opposed. Abstentions. The yays have it. Thank you.
This is
Okay,
so-
Commissioner Sycamore, would you like to speak now?
Even the tone, it's crazy.
Okay, moving on.
Said that OP was supposed to provide images. In the Economic Development Committee meeting, OP promised to provide images, street view images of this text amendment. Have they done that? No, not yet. They were supposed to engage with the community of those 6 row houses and the 16th Street houses in that corner. I don't think they've done that either. I'd like to know, I think the ANC should say that demand or, yeah, get the, at the next Economic Development Committee meeting, they need answers to that.
I have talked to OP this week. They are in the process of creating those illustrations. As they indicated, they have their own technical challenges. If you look at the resolution, it was before the zoning committee meeting, which would be December 5th.
So to reiterate that, the resolution that we passed just now, clause 2 requests exactly what you're asking for. Clause 3 also requests further outreach to impacted folks.
By the
Prior to the
zoning
zoning
commission
hearing.
hearing.
Yeah, and so let me read out clauses 2 and 3 that we just passed. And clause 2, ANC 1B requests that OP provide at the zoning commission hearing aerial illustrations and street level illustrations from the Rochelle apartments and V Street row houses that includes vertical elevation drawings from the side yard and setbacks. Point 3, excuse me, that ANC 1B requests that OP confirm targeted engagement with owners and residents of the V Street row houses and the 16th Street row houses prior to the ZC hearing. Madam Chair, may I speak on the last item on the Economic Development Committee so we can move to the next items?
Yes. No, we're moving on for a second and then I'll get back to you.
The next, excuse me, let me stop sharing the screen. The next meeting of ANC 1B's Economic Development Committee will take place on Thursday, November 21st at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom. If you would like to attend, please check ANC 1B's website. Thank you.
Public safety and community engagement, Commissioner Fields. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Go ahead, Commissioner Kinsick.
Yeah, no, I just want to say that, Ms. Piscanich, I think that we do need to work. I think that there's been a lot of working together. That's how we have to get things done. So I don't want to get into the specifics. I also want to say that my question about the 5 committee members, listen, I appreciate the committee members, appreciate everyone that's involved, trying to do their due diligence. And I think that everyone at this table here, the commissioners, and also most of the people in the audience and online can agree that we're trying to work together. So it might not have every little word or what, but in the pictures, but we just have to keep in mind we're doing the best we can in our capacity. That's all. Thank you.
It does look like there's a comment from Miss Danielle online.
Okay, we'll address this. Danielle, Karen, can you take Danielle off of mute? They set the timer. I think she lowered it. I think it might have been a mistake. Okay, we're moving on. Commissioner Fields, Committee on Public Safety and Community Engagement.
Yeah, thank you so much. I forgot a couple shout outs from September. Definitely want to shout out the U Street Art All Night program that Lindsay Hicks put on. It was absolutely amazing. There was a lot of activation throughout the area, and so congratulations to her on that. Also, congratulating the Vermont Avenue work party that happened at the American Civil war African-American Civil War monument right there at the U Street Metro stop. They did some pretty great work this weekend. So as we discussed over the past couple months, we've been trying to put together a project at Rita Bright that would help improve the garden that they have there for children through a family day project and activity. So at this time, the only thing that public safety and community engagement is requesting would be $300 for a sponsorship that will go towards equipment for those gardens. So we'd like to purchase a total of 27 daffodil plants at the cost of $18. And so we'd be hosting an event to plant those before it gets too cold. As we all mentioned, it's quite hot for November, but we'd love to get the kids outside with their families. So at this time, I would like to formally request $300 to go towards a garden party at Rita Bright Community Center within our ANC.
Second.
Wait, was that a motion?
Yes, I move. I said I'd like to request instead of that. It should have been I move, but
Okay,
yes.
and it was seconded by Commissioner Jones. Discussion.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Fields, can you confirm that the organization that would be doing the garden party is a nonprofit organization?
So we'd be hosting / sponsoring it,
Oh.
so it would be through us.
Okay.
If that's
Oh yeah, and the expenses that we would be those would be for well, we can talk about the amount's fine. I think it's just the same stuff you and I know about.
Yes.
Yeah, we have to spend it on.
Mhm.
All right, perfect. Sounds great.
Yeah, sorry, just to clarify, it'll be for plants. So we sponsor that for the Vermont Avenue Garden Works Party, so should be good.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Fields.
And just one comment, Commissioner Harris, you had said to me earlier about a seconding that was supposed to be recognized. I think Commissioner Jones was not second there, so before he had seconded. So I think the rule should apply to all 9 commissioners, not just pick and choose who we select to decide on who gets to say second before you ask the question.
Commissioner Trindade Duramo.
Can I just ask in a friendly way, Commissioner Fields, because I'm sorry, we haven't touched base about this. The Rita Bright Center's in my district, and I know you and I have corresponded a bit about the state of the garden. Can you just characterize what their plans are for improvements to the garden? We've had complaints about large numbers of rodent warrens now being dug into that garden. So if you can sort of characterize what the management at Rita Bright is doing to remediate.
Yeah, so sorry about that. We continued discussions about this project at our public safety and community engagement meeting. So we got John involved from Vermont Avenue Garden Work Party. And so as we mentioned, and as you discussed, there are a problem with rodents and rats there, and they've destroyed the garden beds that are currently there. So instead of sowing directly into the garden beds, we're going to sow into the ground. And John mentioned that daffodils are not liked by rodents. They are a deterrent for them. So just to help them sort of get the rats and stuff away before maybe they do some other stuff with the beds, they're going to just plant directly into the ground.
Thank you.
Are there any other points of discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys so much. That's all I have for public safety and community engagement. Our next meeting will be via Zoom at 7 p.m. on November 12th.
Thank you. Transportation, Commissioner Lakatos.
Thank you. One moment. Let me share my screen. The first thing on the agenda for transportation is a resolution requesting the funding from DDOT for the Ward 1 Green Slow Streets. Am I sharing the right one? Yeah. So this was done in collaboration with Commissioner Handerhan. So this is a program that DDOT is implementing, targeting streets that need both traffic calming and then tree canopy and infrastructure improvements. Think of streets with no trees at all, narrow sidewalks, especially in heat islands. And so some residents in the 200 to 400 blocks of Elm Street Northwest have requested this. And then apparently this was discussed at the Ladera Park Civic Association, things like the public space or the transportation committee. Correct me there. They raised that. So the resolution recognizes those factors in that specific block, and then it requests that DDOT select those blocks as a part of the program. So providing our great weight in support of funding there, and including, we mentioned some specific things. So bump outs, widened sidewalks, bioretention planners. So think of the ones that can take floodwater, as well as speed tables and or raised crosswalks. I don't know, Commissioner Henry, if you have anything to add.
Nope. Thank you so much for all your support here. This is something that was driven by neighbors in Ledroit, and as I understand it, all the relevant district agencies are supportive. They just suggested, getting on record with support for the application.
Do we have a motion?
I move that the full ANC adopt the Ward 1 Green Slow Streets resolution as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Commissioner Sycamore.
Just a quick question. I'm really happy this is community driven. That makes me very happy because that's all I'm about is community engagement. So just really quick, the like green spaces and the tree canopies and road bumps and sidewalks and or raised crosswalks, those are seeming like very separate issues to me. So how did they come together? Why did they marry these two things together?
Sure.
Just
So this, sorry, do you need to cover anything else?
nope. That's good.
Check
Thank
your
you.
vote. So my understanding is that this was passed as a part of the capital budget by the council. So the idea was to take small neighborhood streets that were in need of both. So ones that were in need of both traffic calming infrastructure as well as sort of like green infrastructure improvements and meld them together because those are kind of what my understanding is when you do a capital project for the road, that you tend to interact. So it's kind of like putting them all in one, kind of like, let's tackle this all here instead of, okay, we have one program for one thing, another program for another thing separately. Again, I'm just reflecting what I understand from when this language was passed. I think it was a year ago. I don't know if it was the last budget or the one before. But yeah, it's a small pilot too. It's only $1 million for the whole ward. So I think we're asking for it for these blocks for us, but I know that there's some other blocks under consideration in other ANCs in Ward 1.
And I think it's a great question. And I'm happy it's a pilot to like figure out the interaction. This area in particular, you cannot put street trees on the current sidewalks. You have to bump. So the kind of in this particular area, they have to go together. And so being thoughtful and strategic, it also is right by the park at Ledroit where there's like a lot of kids walking and so there's the public safety element too.
Great. Thank you so much for that clarification. I appreciate it.
Are there any other discussion points?
I just want to say that we definitely should be voting in favor of this. It's much needed in the Ledroit area and throughout Ward 1. I appreciate both Vice Chair Handerhan and also Treasurer Lakatos for doing this and also recommending it. Thank you.
Are there any other discussion points? Hearing none, all those in favor? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next item on our agenda, 1 second, is a resolution requesting a study of a one-way in the 1900 block of 8th Street Northwest. So for those of you familiar, it is one block from here. So this came at the request of Commissioner Chauvin. So this road over here, for those of you who are familiar, it's a two-way road that's really narrow. So it makes it difficult for continuous two-way traffic. There's there's mixed use, there's residential and commercial on the block. There's been a lot of notice about near misses or sort of weird traffic situations that are just very difficult and kind of very unorderly. So the resolution asks that DDOT study the conversion to a one-way and that it include within that study the context of enhancing traffic safety, but also access to residences, schools and business, because there's a school at the intersection of 8th and T Street, which is also included in the further resolved. There's also some other mentions about considering the broader traffic in the area and asking that DDOT install speed tables. So if they were to convert it into a one-way, just to have a speed table there to slow vehicles down so they're just not like speeding up unnecessarily, asking for consideration of pickup drop-off zones. There's a lot of deliveries on that block, as well as sort of like pickup deliveries, and also asking that DDOT come back and engage with the ANC once a study is complete. Does anyone have any questions?
Let's make it quick. We have 30 minutes left.
Yes, Commissioner Lakatos, thank you for putting this together. I do have an amendment I will be asking you for. We touched on the 1800 block of 8th Street, Cleveland Elementary drop-off pickup zone. We reference it here, but I think we just need to ditto the language for the 1800 block of 8th Street, which again is the loading and unloading zone for children at Cleveland Elementary, because we meant to encapsulate that, and I didn't have the opportunity to touch base with you prior to tonight.
To clarify, Commissioner Chauvin, I might. So are you saying that you would want the resolution to include a request to support also a pickup and drop off zone in front of Cleveland Elementary on the 1800 block of 8th Street? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but yes, in conjunction with the study of a one-way in that same block.
So in addition to the 1900 block, the 1800 block, you'd want to request a study of a one-way there as well.
That's correct.
Okay. My only reason I would be slightly opposed is more, I think they are different blocks with different needs, and maybe it would make sense to Commissioner, we can come back to the Transportation Committee meeting next Wednesday. And we can discuss this. I think it's a really fair resolution. There's a lot in this now, and we're on the fly, and I don't feel like it.
That would be fair. I accept that. Thank you.
Great. Is there a motion?
I move that ANC 1B adopt the resolution on 1900 block of 18th Street Northwest one-way conversion.
I'm sorry, is that 18th or 8th?
8th Street, excuse me.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion. All those in favor? That's unanimously. Thank you.
So if anyone's interested in joining the committee, you can contact me at 1b04@anc.dc.gov. Our next meeting is on next Wednesday, November 13th at 7 p.m. You can register at anc1b.org. I know, just again, for folks in the community who are interested in the Vermont Avenue Bike Lane project, I know there's a lot of people who are interested in that project. We will be receiving a presentation from DDOT on the updated plans. Thank you so much.
Thank you. ZPD, Commissioner Handerhan.
I am subbing in for Commissioner Jones because he was out of the country, and there are two items that were on last month's ZPD meeting, one of which I've been working on for quite some time, and that is the first case up for vote. So this is the Howard University Hospital redevelopment, which is a map amendment that has been proposed by the university to functionally upzone a large part of the property under the hospital and around the hospital from a variety of uses, RA2, PDR2, and PDR3, to majority MU10, but inclusive of MU9B and MU10. So there's a map on the slides that we're showing. You can see the shaded area. It is across several SMDs, both in our commission and 1E. 1E has already voted in favor of this. We've delayed the project somewhat because the LaDroit Park Civic Association has been meeting with Howard to learn from the 1617 U Street example and talk about the area in which the current proposed area to be rezoned meets with the two-story residential zone in the historic district of LaDroit Park. The collaboration here has been excellent. I know that's not always the case for these big developments, so I just want to note that the partnership from Howard has been really exceptional. They presented, and this is the PowerPoint that we have up on the screen. There were about 2 months of negotiations from the immediate neighbors, of which I am one, and within 200 feet of the site, and actually voted out of the LPCA unanimously to support the upzoning as proposed, with a few additions that will actually become part of the case file. So if we can go ahead a little bit. What you'll be voting on tonight is just a straight up zone with the, I think this is we've talked about this a lot in past, so I'm going to skip these slides and just go to what the Civic Association discussed. So Commissioner, we just actually got the final MOA today, but I wanted to talk about what is in it. So it basically requires transition setbacks next to RE2s, the residential zones. It talks about the ambulance entrance, which unfortunately is going to be placed immediately behind a set of row homes, which is something that no one wants. But given design considerations, fiscal impact, if it has to be done that way, we requested a few design elements. It also asked the university to look into a buffer zone of townhouses on 5th Street, and it restricts the height of new construction on what's listed here as Square 3078. That's actually in Commissioner Chauvin's district. This is the corner of Florida and Georgia. I'm happy to answer any questions as part of the voting on the motion, but I'll just say like the immediate neighbors and the university are really happy with where this landed. So I would hope that folks generally, defer to the folks who've been in these conversations, but I also know this kind of stuff impacts all of us and it impacts the whole corridor. So it is a really big project. And I think it's fair to discuss. So with that, I'd like to motion that ANC 1B supports the map amendment 2401 to rezone the property in question to MU9B and MU10 as stated in the Howard University application.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Commissioner Chauvin.
Yes, I'd like to thank Commissioner Hanahan and LaDroit Park for all the time they spent and working with Howard on this. I do have one concern that I've only seen a final draft here, so a little concerned, but as long as I think it matches up what's been on the table for I think a month and a half since LaDroit Park.
Are you asking about the MOA specifically?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It only got executed today, so it's in your email, but recognize that you would not have seen, you'd only would have seen the draft language. It has not changed since what you saw.
That's all I needed. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, one other issue. I appreciate the time and effort that LaDroit Park and Howard undertook regarding the emergency room, which may be relocated to the south end of the lot. And it remains a large concern about rerouted traffic. And I hope that we have the proper traffic study that's pending because other neighborhoods will be impacted. So I appreciate your consideration and additional work on that. Thank you.
Really well said. And I'll just add that the incoming ANC 1B commissioner, 1B01 commissioner who won election on Tuesday was the Civic Association president who negotiated this agreement, Matt Fay. So you're going to have continuity after I cycle off. And he and I both 100% agree with what Commissioner Chauvin just said. There are many more steps in this process, including an amendment to the master plan of Howard University Hospital. So this is not the last bite of the apple. And there's still a number of things we want to talk more about.
Any other? Commissioner Sycamore.
Commissioner Chauvin, you stole my thunder. No, Larry, you're speaking my language. Thank you so much it's all about community. And I'm so happy to see this, all this collaboration. I just really tip my hat off to you. And I'm looking forward to working with the future commissioner from your district. One quick question I do have is, does this increase the capacity of the hospital itself? I don't remember. I did a quick scan of it, so I don't remember what that does to the hospital.
Great question. The hospital they're going to build a new tower to where the current hospital is, fronting Georgia Ave. This was not the original plan. This was a new change that will feature the majority of the hospital functions that are currently in the old site. It will, we're not in the business of telling Howard how to, structure their hospital, but it will include a new tower, which will expand the capacity, which we generally support.
Right. Thank you so much.
Are there any other discussion points? Great. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Great. And then again, huge props to Matt Fay and the team that worked on this. Case number 2 is the Christian Tabernacle Church. We got a presentation from CSG Urban Partners. Many folks know the head of that group is working on the proposal for the Reeve Center. This is the property at 2033 11th Street, which is in Commissioner Chauvin's district. So I definitely encourage and hope he'll engage. Do you mind pulling up the PowerPoint?
Actually, if it's all right, Karen, would you please promote Simone Goring-Devaney in the chat to panelists, not just allowed to talk, but promote to panelists so that she can go through the presentation at her will, if that's all right with you, interim chair.
That's fine. But I will, hold on, I will wait until she gets in. Hi, Simone. Thank you so much for joining us. I think you can hear me. You can.
Batiste, not Simone.
Oh,
You're
sorry.
Simone
We're mislabeled as Simone.
Yeah.
But if you can
I'm
give a
gonna change
presentation
my
as
name.
quickly, oh, there's a delay. Hold on.
I'm sorry.
If you can give your you can give your presentation as quickly as possible. We are on a time crunch right now.
Sure. Well, I don't have a presentation per se. Everything that we presented was done at the committee level and with the support of the committee. What I want to note, however, is that since we presented to the committee, the application was amended to be technically correct to include special exception relief for parking. The number of parking spaces hasn't changed in the plans that were filed. It's just that the request for parking relief wasn't included in the application. So we showed 16 parking spaces on the plan. That's what we're proposing. And we're proposing 16 parking spaces where 20 spaces are actually required when you combine the church, the daycare, and the residential use. But it's important to note that the daycare and church, their times of operation do not overlap, and so there will be some shared parking there. The daycare, 85% of the users take public transportation to the site. And the site, given its proximity to metro and several bus lines, does not, the relief for 4 parking spaces will not tend to adversely impact the surrounding uses. And so in addition to the relief there, we are adding the relief for the parking spaces as reflected on the plan that was reviewed and approved by the committee. Thank you.
And just as a point of clarification, we have discussed the historic case for this site here before. So I think most commissioners are pretty familiar with it. On the screen right here, you have the 6 zoning exceptions, which were requested and discussed at the committee meeting. And what Lila's saying is that there's actually a 7th around parking. And it sounds like 6 of them are special exceptions. There's 1 variance. We had a pretty robust discussion. I think it was a learning opportunity for a lot of us because this is like highly, highly technical. They are all in service of making a better building, I think, is where the committee was overall. Happy to answer any specific questions. The vote unanimously from the committee was to support this project. We spent the most time talking about the steepness of the garage, and I think there were some very legitimate concerns there that the team is aware of and feels like they can address. Some of these other ones we barely talked about at all. So to support discussion of this, I would like to make a motion that ANC 1B supports the application by Beacon Communities and Christian Tabernacle Church for zoning relief in an area variance related to case number 21208 as amended to incorporate the parking element as otherwise listed in the application.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Commissioner Sycamore.
Hey, Miss Leela. Just a quick question for you. I was there at the presentation you guys had at the church, and I was wondering, is this parking part? I don't remember that this parking part was that in there or discussed during that time when you had the last presentation there?
No, with the number of parking, the relief was not discussed, but the number of parking spaces that we proposed were reflected on the plan and are already included in the application. Just that.
Okay, was that more or less parking?
So it's the
now,
same
compared to
number.
what it was?
It's the
same.
same number, 16 parking spaces where the regulations require 20.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
I should say there was one thing we promised to do between the time we met with the committee and this meeting. And I sent an email to Commissioner Jones and to Commissioner Chauvin. That was to explain the process through DDOT's top system. How to reserve parking, reserve street parking for loading, for deliveries for people that are moving in and out of the building. There is a process through DDOT, and I sent that process by email to the commissioners yesterday.
Wonderful. Would you be able to include me in that as well? It comes right up to my ANC, and I know we've had some concerns about street parking in general and loading, and I would love to be included in that if you wouldn't mind.
Sorry, tell me your name again. I can't see.
It's okay. Sycamore, Jamie Sycamore.
Okay, I'll make sure to forward it to you.
Yeah, it's just 1bo3@anc.dc.gov.
You can go ahead and put your email into the chat.
Oh, thank you.
Are there any other discussion points?
One point. If you may, I am in support, have been for this project all along. I do remain reserved about the problem with no loading zone, no delivery zone. There's 65 units, I believe. I may be off by a few, but there's nothing built into the project that will allow for proper moving in and moving out of 65 residents. This is a rental building. It may happen. I don't know how often that is expected to happen. It's a problem. It's a flaw in the design, but overall, I support the project, and I was at the meeting and discussion at the committee and approved to proceed as is.
Great. Are there any other discussion points? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lila. The next ZPD meeting of ANC 1B will be Monday, November 18th at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom. Thank you so much.
All right. ABR, Commissioner Fields.
Yeah, so we did not review any licenses this month. The only thing that we have was just people wanted to discuss what was going on with Thirst. So I welcome commissioners to bring their concerns forward at this time.
No concerns. I just spoke to Secretary DeRamo in regards to Thirst Lounge, and we'll follow that up only due to timing of this meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Our next ABR meeting will be on November 20th at 7 p.m. Via Zoom.
Great, thank you. Administrative. Commissioner Trindade DeRamo.
I move to postpone the amendments to the standard operating procedures and hope that we can do it next month.
I
We
will
have a
second.
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 All those in favor?
My most popular motion to date.
Passed unanimously. We already received updates from Office of Council Member. Those are in the chat. We also received updates from Office of the Mayor. Those are also in chat. Are there any commissioner announcements? Hearing none. Are there any community announcements? Hearing none. New business? Not hearing anything. Are there any other further comments? With that, I adjourn this meeting at 8:53 p.m. Thank you.